We were kids at that time, but of course, I'm quite aware of what happened. I was about 14 when the split happened. We used to meet. Javed Saab used to come home, and Dad we used to go there, and the kids, of course, Zoya and Farhan are a little younger than us, but they were kids and they were there. So we were very friendly at that time. So when that breakup happened, and as kids, we were also quite affected.
Of course, Helen ma'am and Salim Saab, they opened up about their relationship in their respective interviews, and they had said whatever. But you've seen the other side also. You've seen your mother's side.
Yeah, so
Just
my
accept.
father never imposed Helen Aunty onto us. You know, he knew that for these kids, their mother is very important. People change. People are also, forget and forgive, and they move on, and they become sometimes much stronger bonds. I think they communicate very often now. They speak over the phone, and time is a great healer.
Absolutely.
So when time happens, you get matured. When kids understand also what has happened, you tend to become more acceptable to certain things in your life. This is a part of life. You can't have everything going your way.
You may have seen so many chat shows on digital platforms, on TV channels, everywhere. But there's one series that I'm going to be immensely proud of being a part of in a tiny way, because it launched on our platform. It's the Invincibles by Arbaaz Khan. Why? Because it has its heart in the right place. And today Arbaaz joins me for a conversation where we are going to grill him. This is what I've told him.
Grill for what?
Grill you for putting out shorter versions of the interview. You do realize that I have actually watched the entire version of it. And thank you for doing this for Bollywood Bubble.
Thank you.
First of all, amazing show, amazing concept. ये idea कहाँ से आया? Like you've literally grown up with them, around them. So where did this idea stem from?
So idea obviously came looking at my father, right? So for the longest time, बचपन से हम अपनी बातों डैड की बातें सुन रहे हैं, जो विजडम देते हैं, कुछ हमने खुद यूज किया है, कुछ अभी भी यूज करना बाकी. But he has spoken about so many things in his life, about his movies, about his own life, and मैंने ऐसा सोचा कि यार it's a man like him, probably needs to be documented for the future generation.
Absolutely.
His own grandchildren should know who he is, where he came from. ठीक है, सुनते उन्होंने शायद फिल्में भी नहीं देखी होंगी उनकी. तो आई फेल्ट कि यार एक फ्यूचर जनरेशन के लिए कि यार हमारा भी जो अस्तित्व है, हम कहाँ से आए हैं, हमने क्या किया ज़िंदगी में, ये सब इनकी बदौलत है. तो आई वांटेड टू do a kind of a documentary on him, and I was planning to do it slightly more extensive actually at one time, where I wanted to go and shoot, where he was born, where he went and he educated himself, where he played his cricket, his old school friends, if at all, whoever are alive, and do all of that. But that seemed to be like a tedious process at that point in time because of whatever the issue. So I said, let me do a sit down interview with him, but a little professional. Means not like talking to him while on a dining table or on a sofa or something. That let me do a proper, where I'll document as much as I can of his life on all the key points of what I think need to be addressed. So I had targeted, okay, fine, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about this. And then I said, I'll bring him down onto the studio and I'll ask him. And I told him, I said, I'm not preparing you for the questions I'm going to throw at you. You feel free to. So he says, Beta, mujhe kya dar hai?
I want to ask you that, Arbaaz, you spoke in your father's episode and Javed sir's episode. Of course, the Salim-Javed pair at one point was the most successful pair ever. Like today also we complain about writers not getting their due. I think there were people who used to go to watch a movie because it was written by them or it was conceptualized by them. Like it had their name on that poster. They changed the norms for writers back then, Then there was a split. Of course, no split is ever easy. Even split in friendship is never easy. You have seen your father go through those times, even as a child maybe. And when you grew up, he must have spoken to you because Salim Saab is somebody, and again Javed Saab, there has never been a discomfort between the two families despite the split. How difficult or important was that phase for you as a family?
So we were kids at that time, but of course I'm quite aware of what happened. I was about 14 when the split happened, right? And we used to meet. Javed Saab used to come home, and we used to go there, and the kids, of course, Zoya and Farhan are a little younger than us, but they were kids and they were there. So we were very friendly at that time. So when that breakup happened, and as kids, we were also quite affected because we saw that dad at that phase was going through a lot more in his, that a lot of things were happening at that time which were kind of blows to him. So one was my accident happened pretty much just around the time that I was involved in a Jeep accident where I broke my femur, like my leg. I broke it. It was a Jeep accident, and I was hospitalized. I was in hospital for 6 months, and then I had a lot of I had to drop my year that year, the 10th standard I was doing, because I was too worried that I might not do well. So there was a time when that accident happened that it was so severe that the doctor had to work out whether he needs to operate it, he needs to put it on traction, and if it's very bad, maybe what other things need to be done. But fortunately, they could save my leg, okay, because it was very bad at that time. So he was very traumatized by all of that. Then his own personal life was a little bit of a turmoil because his relationship with Helen Aunty had just started.
Yeah.
So partnership breaking, relationship with Helen Aunty happening, me having this accident, work almost getting dried up because, when the partnership splits, people don't know which way to go. And initially their direction was towards Javed Saab. So those 3-4 years of his was very, very big struggle for him. So we've seen all of that, but we've met, whenever we've met, well, if kids have met the kids or we've met Javed Saab, we've always been very cordial and we've always been very, nice to each other. There has never been any animosity or any anger or any, like trying to, prove something to the other. And time is a great healer.
Absolutely.
So, when time happens, you get matured, when kids understand also what has happened, you tend to become more acceptable to certain things in your life. This is a part of life. You can't have everything going your way. And when things don't go your way, maybe it doesn't seem right at that time, but finally you come to terms with it and you just say, okay, fine, you accept it and you move on. And that's how you learn, that's how you grow. And today they are in a very good space.
Absolutely.
We as kids would have never thought that both the Javed Saab and, dad would ever sit across each other and make a conversation. That day, Javed Saab called me up because my dad wasn't well. And he insisted that, I give him his update and then tell a day that he can come and see him. And then I had to fix a time and I had to bring him home. And Javed Saab came home and met him and spent 2 hours with him. And so it all seems so wonderful. Sometimes you have to allow time to take its own course and, heal things. And, people are very, people change. People are also, forget and forgive and they move on and they become sometimes much stronger bonds. I think they communicate very often now. They speak over the phone very often, and more so because dad is a little older than Javed Saab. Javed Saab keeps asking about dad's welfare. Dad's much better now. He was not well a couple of days back, but he's better now.
I also want to ask you that there's this beautiful thing that connected or related to me and my mother also. My mother was there during the shoot, and when she saw the episode, the first thing she called me and told me is that, it's how beautifully it has been handled, the whole thing. Where Helen ma'am actually calls you son after every question. And you've given her the respect and the dignity that she always gets from you guys. You spoke about the time. Of course, Helen ma'am and Salim Saab, they opened up about their relationship in their respective interviews and they had said whatever. But you've seen the other side also. You've seen your mother's side. And there's this part where she speaks about how she used to duck and she couldn't face your mother. Today, you guys are in a different space altogether. But as kids, you were in your formative years when this was happening, like you said. You understood everything. How difficult? It cannot be easy, right? To suddenly like we are not so accepting of things in the beginning. We can become liberal and accepting over time, like you said. But in the beginning, was it very difficult for the family and the kids to
so my father never imposed Helen Aunty onto us. He knew that for these kids, their mother is very important. And, I have another woman in my life, but, she has her own space. And she too also never tried to, separate us or whatever it is. We saw that in an interview. And she was just happy that there was somebody who was there in her life and who was just going to be there for her. And she knew that he had his own family, he had his wife, his own kids, and she didn't want to disrupt that. It's difficult for for my mom at that point in time, but she dealt with it in her own way because I guess that was their, whatever their reasons were to keep things going, whether it was children or circumstances or just the fact that you felt that, okay, fine, this has happened, but now I still need to be around this man, or he felt that I still need to be around this woman. They've had their own struggles, and we've seen it as kids, but they've gone through that. They've could tide through that, and today, like I said, all of them are inseparable. My dad holds my mom's hand today, and sits so beautiful, like he just keeps calling her and making her sit next to her, and so it looks beautiful. All of this, So sometimes
Something that beautifully Helen ma'am actually spoke in the interview, and you will also agree, because of course people know her name, your mom, but your mom has never come out and spoken except like in one or two instances that she did some interviews with Farah Khan and all. It was important, and it was her call, more than anybody in that space. I think it was she who was the most accepting, and she came out. And today, the way you speak about them being inseparable, the way Helen ma'am also spoke about how her bond is with her right now.
they're very good, yeah.
Absolutely. You've seen your mom through that. And your mom, I think, for people who know her and people who have met her, will always believe that there's so much of your mom in all of you. Like, of course, there's your father in you, but there's so much of your mom's heart in all of you. In you, in Salman sir, in Sohail, in Baby, in Arpita, everybody. What do you think has been her influence during this course of time in your life, especially because you said your father actually made sure that you guys don't feel too neglected. But how did your mom cope up with this?
So
with
my
the kids?
father was making an attempt that
Yeah.
we don't be neglected, now because he knew he had a responsibility. My mother was always there. So my father was actually working around the fact that they should not feel that way. So he was making an effort. My mother was always there with us. We were always with our mother. So in fact, for a very long time, we didn't really communicate so much because my father was constantly working. So when we would go to school, he probably would not have woken up by then. This is the early years,
Yeah.
because we used to be in school by 8:30.
Yeah.
And he would have been working till late in the night. So, he would come back. So we were already in school. When we used to come back from school, that's the time when his working hours were there, like post lunch, he would go to do his writing and all that stuff. So by the time we would finish our school and play our sports and come back home, he would probably be home at around 7:30, 8. Those few hours or whatever before we went to sleep, we would meet him. So we were as kids, we were not very, very, close to him. We got close to him when the partnership broke, and when I met with an accident, I was about 14. That's when father was spending a lot of time with us, he was also jobless at that point in time. Otherwise, he was a superstar writer.
Yeah.
And so that's again when things started getting close with him. And today, to say, from then onwards, I would say, he's been always there with us, and we've got the highest regards and love for him. And, the little time that we get from anything, we just go rush and spend time with them. Like, there's not a single day that if I'm in town, I have to eat lunch, right?
Yeah.
So I'd rather eat it with him.
How nice.
Yeah,
that's a rule.
It's like, खाना तो खाओगे ना, और घर पे खाओगे, उससे अच्छा अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ खा लो. 1 घंटा दे दो उनको, वो भले ही बाद में, you do your thing, they do their thing. So we find time to go and spend time with our parents. So whoever is in town will never miss an opportunity to go and spend time with them.
But you know what my mother told me? My mother was not there during Shatru sir's shoot, right? So my mother wanted to just ask you this, and I'm going to ask it on behalf of her and the audience. Did you delve on his little bit of knock joke with Big B, and then today they are very good friends, but there was a point of time when
there are some areas that I have touched, and I've allowed him to speak. You see them in the interview.
Absolutely. And for Invincibles Part 2, who are the ones you're thinking of getting?
That's like letting the cat out of the bag.
I've given you a
Come on. There's always an intrigue element for every season. Let me work on that. I know I'm going to do it, and I'm very excited about it. When I did this also now, I did not have any design or any really purpose. It's something that just drove me to do it. Like I'm doing this movie Patna Shukla. Trust me, when you all will watch the film, I'm quite excited and happy about it. I just knew I wanted to make this movie. I just knew it. It took me 2 years to put that film on floor.
The one you have with Raveena.
With Raveena, okay. It seemed like, it won't happen. It will not work. It will not. I'll not be able to make it. Things, obstacles here, there. I said, no. This is something I want to do. This is a story I want to tell. This is a story I want to tell. And today, when I see it, I'm happy. It'll come. Whatever it is, whatever happens to the film, I know that I've been very happy and satisfied with the work that I've done.
And finally, I want to ask you specially that you had not shown the episodes to your family before it released.
No.
So when it released, I want to know how.
No. Before it released, I did show.
Matlab, I'm saying the whole footage. You've shown them the cut version.
The clips I showed.
Yeah. So I want to know how did.
So Helen Aunty had not seen. My dad saw his episode. He had not seen the rest of the episodes. I had to show him his episode. I said, Dad, dekho, aapka episode dekh lo before you have anything to say. So he was the only one I showed the episodes to. The rest I had not shown.
No, I'm talking about everybody else in the family. Like, how did Baby, how did Salman Khan and Sohail react?
And see, I was very shocked to know that people who spent time with my father, who know my father, who've heard my father, have been the ones who have called me and said, what an interview. And I'm like, really? You all to know pretty much quite a lot of what he has spoken on the interview is what he speaks generally when people meet and all that stuff. He says, no, there was so much more to the interview, and there were such elements and there were certain things that we also did not know that came. So whether it was, I can just go on and name the people who are so close to us, who've called me up and told me that Dad's interview was good. And I was like, Dad's interview? Like, I can understand if you had liked, somebody else's interview that, chalo, theek hai. तुम तो सुन चुके हो, डैड के साथ टाइम स्पेंड कर चुके हो. He says, नहीं, उसके बावजूद भी बहुत अच्छा इंटरव्यू था. उसमें बहुत ऐसी बातें थी जो हमने कभी सुनी नहीं थी. और जो तुमने जो पूछी एंड जो उसका जवाब मिला है, वो सब.
But that's true. I will also say that as a host also, I genuinely feel that nobody could have got the content the way, with the same ease and comfort that you did. Because of course you share a personal connection with them. It also makes it so much easier for you to ask questions that you do. And believe me, to have the same emotions. Maybe people might ask them that because they want that answer, but the same emotions, I don't think they can connect on, which you perfectly have done. Thank you so much for doing this, and I hope that you come up with season 2 very, very soon.
Inshallah. Hi, this is Arbaaz Khan, and you're watching me on Bollywood Bubble.